begin? Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So continuing then with the 6 events from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we completed the introduction and the first event yesterday. Today then we move on to the second event. الموضع الثاني أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم لما قام ينذرهم عن الشرك ويأمرهم بضده وهو التوحيد لم يكرهوا ذلك واستحسنوه وحدثوا أنفسهم بالدخول فيه إلى أن صرح بسب دينهم وتجهيل علمائهم فحينئذ شمروا له ولأصحابه عن ساق العداوة وقالوا سفه أحلامنا وعاب ديننا وشتم آلهتنا ومعلوم أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يشتم عيسى وأمه ولا الملائكة ولا الصالحين لكن لما ذكر أنهم لا يدعون ولا ينفعون ولا يضرون جعلوا ذلك شتما. In this second event, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala says that when the messenger arose and began warning the people against shirk and commanding them with the opposite of it, which is Tawheed. When he began doing that, initially, the mushrikun did not detest or dislike that. Initially, they didn't have a problem with it as such. And they actually thought, it's okay. استحسنوه. And they were even talking about considering accepting that and entering into what the messenger was calling them to. Initially, they didn't have such a problem. They didn't have an issue. And they were considering maybe we could do what the messenger is calling to. Until when the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam then began detailing the call, detailing what the da'wah was that he was calling to, by detailing what Tawheed is and detailing what shirk is. That's when they realized that he wants them to abandon everything else. It mentions here up until he explicitly rebuked their religion. Up until the messenger explicitly rebuked their religion and declared their scholars to be upon ignorance. Then shammaru lahu. Shammaru is like when we say to roll up the sleeve. It's an expression to indicate you are about to do some hard work. They say roll up your sleeve and get working. Shammaru lahu. That they kind of rolled up their sleeves now to get ready for battle against the messenger. When they realized that the detail of his da'wah meant a rebuke of what they were currently upon. And why is that? Because, like we said, they thought what they were doing was not shirk, because they were claiming that when they called upon their statues and idols and false deities, they were claiming that this is not shirk. This is just seeking intercession and nearness to Allah. ما نعبدهم إلا ليقربونا إلى الله زلفى. They said, we don't worship them other than the fact that they bring us closer to Allah. And they said, هؤلاء شفعاؤنا عند الله. These are just our intermediaries to Allah. That's it. So they thought what they were doing does not constitute shirk. So when the messenger initially came telling them to be upon Tawheed and warning them against shirk, they did not initially think that the shirk, the warning against shirk, was against them and what they were doing. They didn't realize the messenger is talking about them and what they are doing. That's the shirk he is warning against. They didn't realize that. They thought they were okay. They weren't committing shirk. But when the messenger began detailing the da'wah, detailing what Tawheed is and what shirk is, and explicitly highlighting to them that their religion is false, and what their scholars are calling them to is false, and he rebuked their worship of the idols, that's when they realized the da'wah he is upon, this call to Tawheed and this warning against shirk, it's a warning against us and what we are upon right now. The worship of the idols and the statues, Allat wal Uzza wal Manat, that the messenger is warning against our practices. He is calling what we do shirk. So when they realized that, they rolled up their sleeves, as they say, shammaru lahu, in order to now prepare for battle against the messenger. And قالوا سفه أحلامنا. They said, this messenger, he has declared our ideas and our mentality and our notions to be ridiculous. He has ridiculed us. He is saying that our methodology and our practice of going to all these different idols, etc., that it is ridiculous, it is wrong. He has declared our thoughts and the way we do things to be wrong. He has ridiculed us and ridiculed our gods, just as they said earlier to Ibrahim alayhi salam. When Ibrahim alayhi salam, in the famous story, when he broke all of the idols, and then when they came back and they saw all of the idols had been smashed up and the axe had been put around the major one of them, and they came and they said, Ibrahim, you did this. He said, ask the big one, your gods. Ask the big one, he'll tell you who did it. And of course they knew that the big one and the little ones, big, small, none of them can speak. None of them can speak. None of them can verbalize anything, hear them talk. And so in the end, from their anger, they said, Ibrahim has belittled our idols. He has belittled our idols. He has ridiculed our idols. Build a fire and throw him in. And so they built a huge fire It was so big, this fire that they built, so big that the security guards, when they wanted to throw Ibrahim into it, they couldn't walk him up to the fire and push him in. They couldn't do that. Why? It was so big, this fire, nobody could get into close distance to it. As soon as you got within a few meters of it, within close distance proximity, the heat was too much. So the security couldn't walk Ibrahim into the fire and push him in. They couldn't get close to it. So they had to catapult him in from a distance. Catapult him into the fire from a distance. And we know the story how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the fire to be cool and to not be upon heat and not to burn Ibrahim. And that was the time when Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. He said, Allah is sufficient for me and the best of protectors. Allah is sufficient for me and the best of protectors. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. And Allah was indeed his protector. And Allah saved him and the fire was made cool. And that statement, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil, or Hasbun Allah wa ni'mal wakil, was also said by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a famous incident, which was no answers with one book. What about two books?
During the time of Khandaq.
You're almost there, but not quite. So 3 books available now. No, the Messenger Muhammad. When did the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, Hasbun Allah wa ni'mal wakil? In the cave, but there's another big famous incident where it's in the Quran. Ta'if. It was a battle, but it wasn't the battle of Al-Khandaq. It was the battle of Trench is Khandaq. You just said it in a different language. Badr, I mean, now now everybody's going to get it. I'll put the books back now. Uhud. In the battle of Uhud, when the battle of Uhud occurred, and after the initial battle, there were like 3 battles that happened in Uhud. There was the first battle when the Muslims defeated the Kuffar. Because when the Kuffar gathered their army and they were coming towards Medina, and the Prophet ﷺ heard that they are coming, so he asked his companions, he consulted his companions, what shall we do? Shall we go out and face them as they come? Or shall we stay here in Medina and make our defense here and attack from here? The companions who had missed the battle of Badr, they all said to the messenger, we should go out, let's go. Because they were eager and enthusiastic to do jihad in the path of Allah. They had missed Badr. They said, oh messenger, let's go. But the messenger himself actually wanted to stay in Medina. But in the end, he took their consultation and they went. And so when the battle began, initially the Muslims won. And they defeated the mushrikun. And the mushrikun began to flee. And the archers, when they saw that, they had been commanded not to come down. They had been commanded, do not come down from that mount, from where they were stood on their positions with the bow and arrow. But when they saw that the battle is over and their brothers were picking up the war booty, they said, let's go, it's over, it's finished. Let's go pick up the war booty as well. The leader, Abdullah ibn Jubair, he said, no, the messenger told us, stay here. He refused to go down. But the others, they said, look, it's over, it's finished, let's go. So they went. When they went, Khalid ibn al-Walid, who was with the mushrikeen at the time, he wasn't a Muslim yet, and he was known as an army general. He was strong and powerful and intelligent in warfare. He was an army general. So when he saw that the archers are gone, then he realized we can now double back, come from the other side and attack from there. So they came back with a small army. It wasn't the whole army. Khalid ibn Walid took a small battalion, as we say, a small army, horsemen. They came back around and they began attacking. And that's where many of the Muslims were killed, martyred. The uncle of the Prophet ﷺ was martyred. The messenger was hit. They threw some type of spear and it hit the messenger. He was wearing a helmet. It hit the helmet. It dented the whole helmet. His tooth broke. The incisor tooth from the front broke and he fell down into a pit. So many of the Muslims were martyred, 70 or so. And then there was some respite and there was some retreat and some retreat. But then the mushrikun sent a message to the messenger saying, when that slight respite occurred, don't think we're finished. The message came to the messenger from the mushrikun telling him, do not think we've gone. We're here, we're coming back. We're coming back yet to finish off the rest of you. Because right now the mushrikun were winning. And the Muslims were on the back foot. The mushrikun, they sent a message saying, we're coming back to finish off the rest of you. Just like we've killed 70 odd already, we're coming to finish the rest of you. When that message came to the Prophet ﷺ, and the companions were injured and wounded, they had sword marks and arrows and they were wounded and bleeding and injured. The message came and all of them, the messenger and those companions with all their injuries and everything, when they heard that message, Allah tells us, what did they say? The full ayah, قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. They said in the ayah, it tells you that the people said to them, they have gathered an army against you, they're coming back. So fear them, because the Muslims were losing the battle now. Fear them, they're coming back with an army. But it says in the Quran, when they heard that, زادهم إيمانا, it increased them in iman. And they said, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us and the best of protectors. And they went out. They went out with all of their injuries and everything. They went. When Abu Sufyan and the others on the other side, when they heard, because they were not expecting the Muslims to come out again. They were expecting the Muslims to surrender. When they heard they're coming again, that's when fear struck them. Fear struck their hearts. They are coming back. How could they be coming back with all the injuries and casualties we inflicted upon them? They're coming back. Fear struck them and they fled. Fear struck them and they fled. And this is mentioned about one of the khasa'is of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that the armies who used to come to want an attack against the Muslims, those armies, or rather, when the messenger used to go out in jihad towards the kuffar, and they used to be traveling on their horses and their camels and going out, and the army is moving slowly across to their destination. When they were still a month away, a month of traveling distance away, the enemies would be inflicted with fear, afflicted with fear. And they were a month away yet. The messenger was still a month away. And they would be afflicted with fear, those disbelievers. The messenger of Allah is coming. So that was a time when he mentioned also, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. So here, they said that he, the messenger, has ridiculed our gods. He has ridiculed our gods. And we know that the reality is, like we talked about the definition of the Taghut, the messenger had not ridiculed the likes of Isa alayhi salam or his mother, the mother of Isa alayhi salam, nor had the messenger ridiculed the angels, nor had the messenger ridiculed the righteous people. The messenger had not ridiculed any of them. And they were from the types that the mushrikun used to worship. The messenger had not ridiculed any of them. They are righteous people, Isa alayhi salam and his mother and the angels and the righteous pious. The messenger did not ridicule any of them. He did not speak bad of any of them. His warning against shirk was not a warning against them, because as we said yesterday, none of them are pleased with the mushrikun worshipping them. None of them were pleased with the worship of the mushrikun. So the messenger had not ridiculed or abused or cursed any of them. لكن لما ذكر أنهم لا يدعون. And I believe that's the correct way. The translation is incorrect the way it says it. لا يدعون. When the messenger mentioned that they are not to be supplicated to, they are not to be invoked. In this booklet it says, when he mentioned that those being worshipped cannot call out to those worshipping them. Yes, that is true as well. That is true as well. But the meaning here perhaps, la yud'auna, that the messenger highlighted to them that all of these others are not to be called upon. Yud'auna, mabni al-majhul. وَلَا يَنْفَعُونَ, and that they cannot benefit you. وَلَا يَضُرُّونَ, and they cannot harm you. جَعَلُوا ذَلِكَ شَتْمًا. When the messenger said, these angels, Isa alayhi salam, or your idol statue, whatever it is, they cannot be called upon. You cannot supplicate to them. You cannot invoke them. They cannot benefit you. They cannot harm you. When the messenger began saying those things, they considered that as an abuse of their gods. How dare he tell us they cannot benefit us? How dare he say they cannot harm us? How dare he say they cannot be called up? They viewed that as a rebuke of their gods, as an insult to their gods. فإذا عرفت هذا عرفت أن الإنسان لا يستقيم له إسلام ولو وحد الله وترك الشرك إلا بعداوة المشركين والتصريح لهم بالعداوة والبغض. كما قال تعالى: لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله. So if you now understand, فَإِذَا عَرَفْتَ هَذَا, the author says, if you now understand this, what we are mentioning here, that a person cannot be upright upon his religion, even if he is upon Tawheed of Allah, and even if he abandons shirk, he can still not be upright upon his religion. Being upon Tawheed and abandoning shirk is still not the full thing that is required. What else is required then? If you're upon Tawheed and you're abandoning shirk, what else is needed on top of that? إِلَّا بِعَدَاوَةِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. That you must also have enmity to the mushrikeen. You must have enmity to the mushrikeen, and you must explicitly have that enmity and hatred. Now this is important to understand. Having enmity and being explicit with that hatred of the mushrikeen, it does not mean that you become Khawarij. It does not mean that you go and commit the acts that the Khawarij commit, that you go and blow up buses with innocent people in them, go and blow up schools, go and blow up this, go and throw bombs there, innocent people. That is not the meaning of having hatred against the mushrikeen and having enmity and detesting the mushrikeen. The scholars, they say, to understand this in the basic way, is that there are two perspectives a Muslim has towards the mushrikeen. There are two perspectives that go side by side. One perspective, one viewpoint is that the mushrik, you hate the mushrik for the shirk that he is upon, for the polytheism he is upon, for his lack of Tawheed. You hate that. And that disgusts you. A person upon shirk, associating partners alongside Allah. Yes, you have that. And so you're not going to be upon friendship and love with that individual. But there is the second perspective, which is that despite that first perspective, tomorrow that person might be your brother in Islam. Tomorrow that person may be your brother in Islam. Tonight that person may be your brother in Islam. So you cannot just have absolute hatred and detesting that individual and tonight he's your brother in Islam. You have that angle, but then you have the second angle, the scholars they say, which is the angle of da'wah. That yes, he's a mushrik and you hate the shirk he's upon and what he, the way he is, but you have the perspective of giving him da'wah, of wanting to call him to Islam and call him to Tawheed, no matter what level of shirk he may be upon. Allah may open up his heart and he may enter into Islam. So you have the lack of agreement with the mushrikeen, the lack of love and companionship with the mushrikeen, but you have the goodness and etiquette with a mushrik that you are giving da'wah to and calling him to Islam. So that must be understood. The Khawarij, they only understand the first perspective. The mushrikeen, you must hate them, and Allah says detest them. Khalas, let's go bomb them, let's do this, let's do that, kill the innocents. That is not what Islam has taught us at all. So in the ayah it mentions you will not find a people who believe in Allah and the last day who have that compassion or friendship or love or companionship with those who oppose Allah and His Messenger. But then the question arises also regarding marrying who? Ahlul Kitab, the Jewish woman, the Christian woman. Permissible or not? Permissible. Permissible in the USA or not? You get the book for your answer, nobody else. Exactly. Exactly. It is not just Christian and Jew. Well, Jew most of the time, well, it depends as well with their sects, but Christians and Jews, it doesn't just mean any person who's Christian and Jew. It's talking about the chaste women. You look 100 years ago, just 100 years ago, the way the women of the kuffar used to dress, basically hijab. The full garments and the full long skirts, and especially in some European countries, they used to wear like the burqa, as they call it, the big thing on top of their heads even. And the royalty, the kings and queens of Europe and those places in the times gone by, the women used to cover up. So it's talking about the chaste women, not the women of the streets. So that's permissible if you find a chaste woman. But then how are you going to love her as your wife when we know you do not love the mushrikun?
There are two types of mahabba. So there's the mahabba diniya, what we some of the religious sect, and there's mahabba tabi'iyya, the natural love you have to your family member, whether they're mushrik or
Yeah. So there are different types of love. There are different types of love. And several categories. But in brief, you can say there is the love which is connected to ibadah, to religious aspects. In that aspect, of course, you do not love the mushrik, even your wife. You hate the shirk that she's upon still. But there is a love which is a natural love. She's your wife. You're going to want to protect her. You have love for her as your wife. The natural love. And that is like a person who becomes Muslim and his parents are still not Muslim. Do you love your parents or not? You still love your parents. But they are mushrikun. Yes, you have the perspective of hating that kufr and shirk and you detest that. But there is still going to be the natural love. They are your parents, they raised you. your siblings, your uncles, your aunts. You're still going to have the natural love for them. That's in your heart. They raised you and all the memories and everything. That's going to be there. You're not blameworthy for that. You're blameworthy if it crosses over into the realms of the religious side. So now you love your parents, for example, who are not Muslim. You're supposed to obey them. You're still supposed to obey them in everything except if it is something they request that goes against Islam. So even your non-Muslim parents, they tell you, son, get up and go get the groceries. You got to get up and go get the groceries. Obey your parents, non-Muslim parents. But if they tell you, son, get up and go get the groceries right now, but right now is the time for Salah, the Jama'ah in the mosque right now. So then you got to say to them, okay, I'll get them, but just give me an hour. Because you're going to go to the mosque first and do your prayer in Jama'ah. Then you can go pick up the groceries and bring them to them. You do not give precedence to your parents in that situation and say, I'm going to miss the Jama'ah, or even worse, miss some obligation more than that as well, and other wajibat. You're not going to do that. That would then go into blameworthy obedience and love of your parents that are not Muslim. And even Muslim parents, the same would apply to those kinds of things. If a Muslim parent tells you to do something haram, there is no obedience in the haram. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الله. There is no obedience to anybody in creation at the expense of disobedience to Allah. So here then, after that he mentions فَإِذَا فَهِمْتَ هَذَا فَهْمًا جَيِّدًا عَرَفْتَ أَنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الَّذِينَ يَدَّعُونَ الدِّينَ لَا يَعْرِفُونَهَا. If you therefore understand this, he says, you will understand that many people claim to be upon this religion. They do not understand it in reality. They do not understand the detail of the religion in reality, especially this issue. Muslims having their best friend as a kafir, having their company and their colleagues and associates with the disbelievers as friendship, not even for da'wah, having allegiance with the non-Muslims. That is what this point is trying to highlight as an aspect of it. وإلا فما الذي حمل المسلمين على الصبر على ذلك العذاب والأسر والضرب والهجرة إلى الحبشة. And he says, so what is it that caused the Muslims to be patient upon all of that torment and punishment and being taken hostage and being beaten and having to do the hijrah to Habasha, the first hijrah that they did? There were two hijrahs in the early stages when the torment of the mushrikeen became too severe upon them in Mecca. The messenger commanded the Muslims to go, and so they went to Habasha, to Abyssinia, those areas where Najashi was the ruler. And Najashi, remember, Najashi was not his name. Najashi is what? It's a title. It's a title. Najashi wasn't actually his name. There were many Najashis. It's a title which refers to the ruler of that area. Like the Romans, they call their rulers in the olden times Caesars. In Egypt, they call their rulers in the olden times pharaohs. In Abyssinia, they used to call their rulers Najashis. So there's two famous Najashis. One of them definitely became Muslim, and the messenger prayed the janazah in absence. And the other one, they mentioned some things as well, but these were Najashis. So they went to Habasha, and all of that upon the torment and the hardship that they faced from the mushrikeen. مع أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم أرحم الناس لو يجد لهم رخصة لأرخص لهم كيف وقد أنزل الله تعالى ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله فإذا أوذي في الله جعل فتنة الناس كعذاب الله فإذا كانت هذه في من وافقهم بلسانه فكيف بغير ذلك. So the messenger was the most merciful of the people. If there was any way that the Muslims at that time were able to give up some of their positions and say, okay, we'll be okay on this issue, then we won't make a point of that, and we won't make a point of this, and we won't make a point of that, in order to keep the mushrikeen happy. If they were able to let some of their principles go for the sake of keeping the mushrikeen happy, like these principles of now what worship is and what shirk is and your idols, and if they were allowed to let go of some of their principles about Tawheed and shirk, the messenger was the most merciful of the people. He would have allowed them to do that then, to stop all of the torment and the punishment and the adhab that was occurring to them from the mushrikeen, but they could not. You cannot give up your principles on Tawheed and shirk. You cannot start saying, oh, well, it's okay then, these idols you're calling upon. Well, if you're only seeking intermediary, that's okay then. They could not give that up. They had to maintain their principle of Tawheed and shirk. We will never agree with you on the worship of these idols. We will never agree with you on intermediaries and intercessors. We will not have friendship with you if this is the case. And that's the position they took. And as a consequence, they were punished and persecuted by the mushrikeen. And they had to make the hijrah to Habasha. And the point the Shaykh is making there is, that is what is required in your religion. It is not a case of, I let go of my principles on issues of Tawheed and Shirk. That it's a minor thing, it's not a big deal, you can let that pass. Tawheed and Shirk, you do not let the things pass. Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bih. Allah will not forgive that you commit shirk alongside Him. There is no such thing as letting those kinds of things pass. It's like, these holidays they have now in the Western countries, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, all these things. You cannot participate with them in those holidays or congratulate them on those holidays. You cannot let go of your principles on these affairs. These are holidays, especially things like Christmas and Easter. These are direct holidays upon shirk. Directly. You cannot let go of your principles on that and say it's no big deal. Let me just make a comment upon the tongue. There are certain types of shirk that are known as ashirku fil alfaz. Shirk upon your statements. It's not even an action that you do. Statements that you make can be considered shirk. So here in the second incident, the incident is about how the messenger, when he gave the detailed da'wah and did not step down from that, did not let go of his principles upon the detailed da'wah, then you saw the enmity of the mushrikeen against him. But that is what is needed of the Muslim, to be upright and firm upon Tawheed and not to let go of the principles of Tawheed. Then we come on to the third incident. قصة قراءته صلى الله عليه وسلم سورة النجم. The story regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reciting Surah An-Najm. And this particular incident then, it was a time, a story that happened when once the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reciting Surah An-Najm from the Quran in the presence of the mushrikun. The mushrikun, in those days the Kaaba was there, and then around the Kaaba were the houses of the people, and the mushrikun used to be there. The mushrikun used to be there in and around the Kaaba and that area. So one occasion the messenger was reciting Surah An-Najm there, and some of the mushrikun were there in the vicinity. And they were listening and hearing. فَلَمَّا بَلَغْ. And so when the messenger got up to the ayah, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّ وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى, talking about those idols of theirs, Allat and Al-Uzza and Manat. When the messenger got up to that section he was reciting, he got up to that section, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى. When he got there, أَلْقَى الشَّيْطَانُ فِي تِلَاوَتِهِ. The shaitan then uttered some words. And those mushrikun who were sat around listening thought that these extra words that were said by the messenger. But these were words that the shaitan had cast into that recitation. And those words were تِلْكَ الْغَرَانِيقُ الْعُلَى وَإِنَّ شَفَاعَتَهُنَّ لَتُرْتَجَى. Allat wal Uzza wa Manat, they are the great deities and their intercession is to be sought. So the mushrikun were sitting around and all of a sudden they hear the messenger say, Allat, Al Uzza, Manat, they are the deities, their intercession is to be sought. The mushrikun were so happy and overjoyed. They thought, what? He's with us now. He's agreed with us. وَإِنَّ شَفَاعَتَهُنَّ لَتُرْتَجَى فَظَنُّوا أَنَّ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم قَالَهَا. They were words the shaitan had spoken as the messenger was reciting Surah An-Najm at that exact moment. And they were listening and they just thought the messenger has recited that maybe revelation has come in the Quran now, that you can seek intercession from those deities. فَفَرِحُوا بِذَلِكَ وَقَالُوا كَلَامًا مَعْنَاهُ هَذَا الَّذِي نُرِيدُهُ. So they were overjoyed when they heard that and they began, that's it. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's what they began saying. هَذَا الَّذِي نُرِيدُهُ. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's it. وَنَحْنُ نَعْرِفُ أَنَّ اللَّهُ هُوَ النَّافِعُ الضَّارُ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. We know that Allah is the one who benefits and harms Him alone. No partners in that. وَلَكِنْ هَؤُلَاءِ يَشْفَعُونَ لَنَا عِنْدَهُ. But these are the idols, deities, they intercede for us with Him. That's it. We're together now. That's what they began saying. They began saying, that's it. That's what we want. We're with you. We're with you. Allah is the one who benefits. Allah is the one who harms. We're with you on that. Allah alone. But exactly what you said, that's all we ever said. That these other deities are intermediaries and intercessors. So they became overjoyed, thinking the messenger has agreed with them now. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ السَّجْدَةَ. And you know, in the Quran, there are certain places where prostrations come up. Soon after that, there is a prostration that comes up. So the messenger carried on reciting and he got to the prostration. And so he prostrated. And when he prostrated, the mushrikun who now thought revelation has come to them in the Quran affirming our beliefs and we're all good now. So when the messenger prostrated, they all prostrated. They all prostrated as well. فَلَمَّا سَجَدَ سَجَدُوا مَعَهُ فَشَاعَ الْخَبَرُ أَنَّهُمْ صَافَوْهُ. And so now there were other people around and they saw all of this incident occurring. And they saw how the messenger prostrated in reciting the Quran. And the mushrikun were prostrating with him. News began to spread that the Muslims and the mushriks have made a pact or a truce. That look, they're all together. Look at them with the messenger. They're all prostrating together. It's all good now. They made a truce. The messenger has said that you can use them as intercession, the idols. He's recited it. And they've looked prostrated with him. They're all good now. And the news started to spread everywhere. There's a pact. There's a truce that's occurred. At this time, the first hijrah had already happened. A group of the Muslims, the first hijrah, not everybody went. Only a group of the Muslims had gone on the first hijrah to Habasha, to Abyssinia. They were there at the time. When this happened, they were there. News spread all the way to Abyssinia, to Habasha. News spread all the way there. That back in Mecca, The messenger and the mushrikun, they've come to an agreement. It's all safe there now. There's a truce between them. The news spread all the way to Habasha. وَسَمِعَ بِذَلِكَ مَنْ بِالْحَبَشَ فَرَجَعُوا. So when they heard that some type of agreement has been made, that it's all safe now, the mushrikun are no longer persecuting the Muslims. When they heard that, they went home. They came back to Mecca thinking it's all good now. Something has been arranged, whatever's happened, but it's all good. So they came back. And when they came back and they spoke to the messenger, فَلَمَّا أَنْكَرَ ذَلِكَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم عادوا إلى شر وعادوا إلى شر مما كانوا عليه. So when the messenger then realized what's going on, that these extra words were inserted into his recitation, etc. And he clarified to the mushrikun, no. He clarified to them, no, that is incorrect. Whatever you heard, whatever occurred there, no. They are not to be used as intercession. And he clarified again and rebuked again. So when the mushrikun now heard that the messenger is rejecting all of that and that it was not him and there is no agreement upon intercession and intermediaries, they returned back to being the worst of enemies against him. Earlier, they were prostrating with him. Khalas, we're all good now with the messenger. He's agreed. As soon as he told them, no, that's wrong. That isn't what I said. That is not correct. And he rebuked them and maintained the position of Tawheed. They went back to even more enmity against him. وَلَمَّا قَالُوا لَهُ إِنَّكَ قُلْتَ ذَلِكَ. And they said to him, but you said that. We heard it. You said it. وَإِنَّ شَفَاعَتَهُنَّ لَتُرْتَجَى. That the intercession from those idols is to be hoped for, and that you should try to get that intercession. You said it. They said to him, to the messenger, you said it, we heard it from you. خَافَ مِنَ اللَّهِ خَوْفًا عَظِيمًا. The messenger became very fearful because he was thinking, what's going on? He became very fearful because those are words of shirk. And they were saying, you said it, we heard it, you said it in your recitation. And the messenger became very fearful over this situation. حَتَّى أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then revealed more ayat. And in those ayat in Surah Al-Hajj, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن قَبْلِكَ مِن رَّسُولٍ إلا نبي ولا نبي إلا إذا تمنى ألقى الشيطان في أمنيته. In this ayah, Allah highlights that there is not a messenger nor a prophet who we sent before you, not a messenger nor a prophet who we sent before you, except that إذا تمنى ألقى الشيطان في أمنيته. ألقى الشيطان في أمنيته. ألقى الشيطان, meaning that the shaitan would cast words upon him, upon what the prophets or messengers, what they hoped for, what they said, that the shaitan would cast upon them. This occurred in the past too, Allah said. There is not a messenger nor a prophet except that the shaitan would attempt to do that, to insert upon their speech. Faman, so that was to console the messenger, to console him that it's not your fault. You did no wrong. This is the work of the shaitan, and he has done this to previous prophets and messengers before you. فَمَنْ فَهِمْ. نعم. So, Shaykh al-Fawzan, he says here now, هذه القصة التي ذكرها الشيخ من قصص السيرة النبوية تسمى قصة الغرانيق. This story is known as the story of Al-Gharaniq. Al-Gharaniq. And that is talking about their idols in that extra wording that was added into the speech of the messenger. وهي كما ذكر أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم لما قرأ سورة النجم في مكة وعنده المشركون والمسلمون، فلما بلغ أفرأيتم اللات والعزى ومناة الثالثة الأخرى نعم، أي أخبروني عن هذه الأصنام، هل نفعتكم وهل ضرتكم؟ When the messenger recited those ayat and there were mushrikun in and around the area, there were Muslims in and around that area, the messenger was there reciting. And when they heard that, and when the messenger got to that section, the shaitan in his voice, the shaitan with his voice added in those words at that moment. So the people listening just thought it was all coming from the recitation of the messenger. And those words were تِلْكَ الْغَرَانِيقُ الْعُلَى وَإِنَّ شَفَاعَتَهُنَّ لَتُرْتَجَى. Those are the great deities and their intercession is to be sought. So then that news it spread. The Shaykh says that there's been some type of pact or truce between them. But when the messenger then told them that he did not say these words, but they said to him, you said these words, and he became very saddened. And he was overtaken, overwhelmed by grief. He was very saddened when he heard that these words were inserted into his recitation and the people heard that. But then Allah revealed those ayat highlighting that was from the working of the shaitan, and Allah invalidated what the shaitan tried to say and do. And so the messenger rebuked that statement and highlighted to the disbelievers that it was not him who said it. There is one thing we have to mention about this whole story, and that thing is clarification of what? The clarification is that there are some scholars who say that this story, the narration may be weak. Some scholars, they say that. Some scholars, they mention وقد وردت هذه القصة عن ابن عباس متصلة بالسند ووردت عن بعض التابعين بأسانيد مرسلة وبعض العلماء أنكرها. So this narration of this story, there are chains of narration that are connected, and there are other chains of narration that are not connected. And some of the scholars, they don't accept this story. Some of the scholars, they say this never happened. Ibn Kathir, for example. Ibn Kathir, in his tafsir, when he gets to this section, he doesn't accept that this narration occurred. But that is, a difference between the scholars, and there may be some who accept the story and some who do not accept the story. But the point is clear. The point of the story is clear. And that is what Shaykh al-Fawzan says. Even if we say there is some difference about the authenticity of the story, the point is clear. مقصود الشيخ من إيرادها أن المشركين يقولون نحن لا نعبد هذه الأصنام على اعتقاد أنها تخلق وترزق وتنفع وتضر. The point of the story is the mushrikun, they became overjoyed because they thought the messenger was now saying it is okay to seek intercession. The messenger never said what the shaitan inserted into the recitation of the messenger was not worship the idols, prostrate to the idols, seek your benefit and harm from the idols. None of that. It was just the words of seek intercession. They were saying it's all good. Allah is the one who benefits. Allah is the one who harms. Allah is the one who controls. All we want you to agree with is that you can seek intercession from the idols. But that is the point. The messenger rejected that, rejected seeking intercession from the idols. And so this highlights the point of Tawheed once again, that Tawheed is not just a rububiyyah. It is not just a person saying that I believe Allah is the creator. I believe Allah is the provider. I believe Allah is the sustainer. I believe Allah is the one who controls the universe. Allah gives life and death. That is the rububiyyah of Allah. That is not enough to enter into Islam. You need al-uluhiyyah, which is the absolute direction of all of your worship to Allah alone. Every aspect of it. And dua is one of the greatest aspects of worship. Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. The dua, it is worship, meaning one of the greatest acts of worship. Your prayer, when you pray, it is a form of dua. As-salah, the word as-salah in Arabic means ad-dua. Linguistically, it refers to ad-dua, calling and invoking, and that is what you are doing in the prayer as well. You are calling upon Allah and making dua to Allah. And so that is the third incident that is mentioned by Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And we're now going to take a break for dinner. And then after that, the next one is going to start at 7:15 p.m. Inshallah ta'ala. We have the 7:15 till Maghrib, and then straight after Maghrib till Isha to finish off the three remaining events, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.
Is one of the reasons the Mashaykh do not agree, besides the chain which is not authentic, is because the shaitan will not have an authority over the speech of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
That is also mentioned. The scholars, they say it is not possible for the shaitan to gain authority, control over the speech of the messenger. That is mentioned too.
I remember yesterday you mentioned that the Brahmins believe in some crazy things like the intercession of the Prophet. But I know from the Sunnah we believe the Prophet will intercede on the Day of Judgment. Can you differentiate between the intercession that the people of Sunnah believe that's innocent?
Absolutely. So all these things we're talking about regarding intercession. And we mentioned that story about the guy with his passport photographs and everything. Intercession, we know as the position of Ahlul Sunnah with the evidences, there are two types of intercession. الشفاعة المنفية and الشفاعة المثبتة. Intercession that is rejected and negated, and intercession that is affirmed. The rejected intercession is the intercession that fails to meet the criteria of the affirmed intercession. So what is the criteria of the affirmed intercession? When is intercession legitimate and valid? That's when you're seeking help and assistance from an individual. Those conditions come in. That is correct. But with intercession,
Allah has to be, he should have the authority to intercede. He should have the permission.
the permission. Okay, so it has to be by the permission of Allah. من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه. Who is one can seek intercession except by his permission? His permission, بإذنه, the permission of Allah. And Allah never gives permission upon acts of shirk. Second condition, which sometimes is second and third, but you can put it as a second.
That Allah is pleased with the one interceding and the one being interceded for.
That Allah is pleased with the one interceding and the one who is being interceded for. And what is the meaning of Allah being pleased with them? That they are both people of Tawheed. So if that is in place, the shafa'ah is valid. And it will occur on the Day of Judgment. But if those conditions are not there, then it's invalid. With all of this, what we're discussing, the conditions are not there. It is not by the permission of Allah. It is not by the pleasure of Allah. But where those conditions are present, then the intercession occurs. On the Day of Judgment, the intercession occurs. Ash-shafa'a al-uzma, when everybody is resurrected and the sun comes close to within a mile, and those narrations about it coming close within a mile, it is not necessarily the mile on the road. There's another type of mile in the Arabic language which is barely anything. So the sun comes close to the earth, and the people are swimming, and some of them up to their ankles, some up to their knees, up to their waists, up to their throats, and they see all the calamity, and they say to each other, "Ama tarawna ma nahnu fi?" Can you not see? They say to each other, look at what calamity we're in. Find somebody who can intercede with Allah to get us out of this. So they go to all the prophets and messengers. They go to Adam alayhi salam, Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam. All of them excuse themselves, and all of them give a reason for excusing themselves except Isa alayhi salam. Adam alayhi salam, the reason of eating from the fruit that he was forbidden. Nuh, Musa alayhi salam, his reason was that he struck the individual. Ibrahim alayhi salam, those lies, or as we say, being economical with the truth. And the stories are long, but those who know the stories, you know. So they all gave reasons, except Isa alayhi salam did not give a reason. In the end, they come to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the one who then goes and does the intercession, goes and asks Allah and makes that intercession on behalf of them. Afterwards, when everything is done, and the people who are going to go to paradise come to the gates of paradise, right at the end. The mushrikun in the hellfire, the people of paradise get to the gates of paradise, and they find that, they find what? When they get the believers who are going to enter paradise, they come to paradise, the gates of paradise, and they find that the gates of paradise are closed. So then they say, find somebody who can intercede for us with Allah, somebody who can go and speak on our behalf to Allah for the gates of paradise to be open so we can enter. So again, they go to Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam. They go to the prophets and messengers. All of them say no, until they come to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He makes the intercession, and the gates of paradise are opened. So intercession is legitimate with the criteria, and it will occur on the day of judgment. But this intercession is all of it without that criteria. This is the shirk that they are upon.
This intercession, when you mentioned that Allah should be pleased with the interceder and the one being interceded for, is this the one who's interceding? This is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
No, it could be anybody. That's a general rule. On the day of judgment, it's not just the messenger who will intercede. The angels intercede. The young children of the believers intercede for their parents. So the ones who are in Jannah intercede for their companions to get them out of hellfire. So many people intercede on that day. Allah must be pleased with the one interceding and those who the intercession is being made on behalf of. There's only one exception we're going to get to next. Abu Talib, we're going to get to that next. Abu Talib obviously was a mushrik, yet the messenger interceded for him and it was accepted. That's an exception. We'll come to that after the food, inshaAllah ta'ala. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.